Hey everybody, we're live, and I want to thank everyone for joining me this morning for a absolutely incredibly rousing, groundbreaking of the Oakland Athletics, now Las Vegas Athletics, soon to be Las Vegas Athletics. Nobody wants to say Sacramento Athletics Ballpark groundbreaking this morning. It was quite scintillating, both for who was there as much as who was not there and everything else in between. But we have the expert who should have been there to talk about it because all the A's should have been there. Dave Stewart was there. Former A's exec, my friend for a long time, Andy Dolich. Andy and I go back to 1996. Do you realize that, Andy?
Oh, I thought it was 1896, not 1996.
Hey, well, since I still look like this.
Yeah, you think about that, Zenny, it's like 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
And I'm working on another project, which is not getting any place, but the Memphis Grizzlies, who I helped bring from Vancouver across the border with the proper credentials, they will be celebrating their 25th anniversary in Memphis next year. That's hard to comprehend. And 25th year in Memphis next season. And you'd go, no, that's impossible. Or Super Bowl going to be in Levi's Stadium next year.
Yep.
And it was just there 10 years ago.
And I was there and you were there.
Right. Like, whoa, time is flying.
Hey, let's talk about that real quick because I haven't done anything in the way of news about that. Are you on the board? Are you involved this time?
I'm on the board of the San Jose Sports Authority, and they are a very active organization next year in the Bay Area, because we always look at it at the Bay Area or Northern California. But as you know, we have many communities here that go, this is our community. This is the Silicon Valley. This is San Francisco. This is Oakland. This is the East Bay. That's Sacramento. But when you look at the demographics, people are coming from every place. And it's about, 6.5 or 7 million people. I'll take that demo any day. So we have Super Bowl 60. We have the World Cup. And as you probably know, Zenny, the World Cup is so big, it's being played in 3 countries next year. Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And the venue with the most games, Levi's Stadium, with 6 games in Santa Clara.
Wow.
The men's NCAA basketball regionals will be here, and many, many other events. If you just try to list all the sports in the world, you can, professional tiddlywinks. And now, the greatness of women's sports gaining more and more traction every day. The Valkyries have sold out 5 games in a row.
Wow.
At Chase, like 17 plus. And they didn't even exist, 2 years ago. So there's lots happening in the Bay Area. And, as we move from the Silicon Valley a little bit north to our favorite location, Oaktown, there's a lot not happening.
Yeah. From that perspective, the last time Oakland was involved in the Super Bowl in 2016, there was already an event at the Scottish Rite Temple for the Business Connect. This time, there's nothing. And then I talked to Ray Bobbitt about it. He claimed that he was meeting with the NFL, but I was trying to explain to him that, meeting is one thing, but the events are supposed to be done by now, and you should make sure that the Coliseum is not, or the Oakland isn't left out.
Right. And Ray is still working, excuse me, to intercede, but I'm a serial interrupter just like you. So we might not get any answer to any question in our conversation. But Where does Ray stand today in his development of the Coliseum footprint, moving towards the future?
Well, right now they're doing a lot of due diligence work, and they've got some scenarios where, well, I can't say about that one because I'm sworn to secrecy on that specifics. I'll leave that out, but I can say that they're doing a lot of scenario work. Where I feel, and I'll say this publicly, is the problem is that neither group understands what it means to turn over a stadium, an arena facility in this fashion. And so they're literally doing it piecemeal without having sitting down and planning it out. They are forced to slow down by the simple fact that the bonds don't defease until next year. So I said a long time ago, look, why kill the JPA? Just keep it going and then merge it into what AESCG is doing. So at least they have a government, liaison and relationship. And so that if a bond issue comes up, you need a credit rating, you're the county, right? You know what I mean?
Right, because it helped me out here, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but the city's portion and the county's portion of the 155 acres known as the Coliseum, give or take an acre, that's not all signed, sealed, and delivered. Is that correct?
And it can't be until the bonds are defeased next year.
Okay.
Yeah, it can't be until the bonds are defeased next year. Specifically February 26th, if memory serves.
Right. So another major focus of 26 in sports in Northern California, without doubt.
Yeah.
As you look at it, and as we talked, I think before we put the button on, you've got cricket being played at the Oakland Coliseum. You have the Oakland Roots playing there. You have some other events that are going in there, and there's no shortage of sports that are being invented every day. And you've got a lot of empty dates, both there and in the Coliseum Arena. So people are taking advantage of it, as they should. However, we saw this morning a well choreographed event in Las Vegas to announce that the A's were officially breaking ground. And, there were shovels and there were hard hats and there were team owners and there was Rob Manfred, the commissioner, and you had state legislators, Congress people. And I mentioned to you, and I noticed this being in the marketing business, there were 3 or 4 very large pieces of heavy machinery in the background outside. The event was inside. Outside, I didn't see their engines turned on, but it's like, okay, you think we're kidding? We got heavy machinery.
Yeah, I would hope they were turned off.
I think they were off.
Yeah.
And they choreographed it, as I said, really well with a lot of young people, Little League players, young ladies who were playing softball, various community organizations. And what struck me most was the enthusiasm, the teamwork, and the trust and the leadership that Vegas was showing in this, and what you and I know could have happened, should have happened, but didn't happen in Oakland, California. And hence, we're talking with the A's right now, but the Warriors over there in Chase, and the Raiders in Vegas, and the governor and other people who had the microphone today all talked about Vegas being the #1 sports and entertainment city in the world.
Yep.
Well, okay. That's a bit boastful, but they're building. They are definitely building. And I also think if you look in the crystal ball, maybe the sphere in Vegas, you're going to see an NBA team in Vegas in the not too distant future.
What do you think, by the way, of something this young man said during the groundbreaking, which I thought was interesting? I believe I've got the right part of it. Let me see. Let me readjust your echo settings so I can make sure that you and the rest of us hear it. This is Dave Stewart, A's legend, of course, who made a comment I thought was like the shot heard round the world, and a message that you would hope. Well, here we go.
Got to be a relief, obviously, for the Fisher family and for the fans that still remain with the A's. For me personally, I've had an opportunity to get a real idea of what the stadium is going to look like, how great it's going to be for the players, and then the fan experience, I think, is going to be absolutely outstanding. And so, I look at this as the first tease, because now that the ground is being broken, you're going to want to know just about every month. I remember when I was having my first house built, and I wanted to be there, foundation, every piece of it. And so,
Now, folks, what we're looking for in this exchange is Dave Stewart actually said he would prefer to have a flag raised for him at Oakland. And he said Oakland. That's what I'm looking for. I should have marked it appropriately. But let's
I didn't see that TV, but I watched the thing, and I never heard one until now.
Yeah, I'll just let this run a
I
bit.
think that this is going to be just as exciting.
Yeah, we're going to have cameras up, and you're going to get to see it. Just talking to Mark Bedane, I can't stress this enough to everybody that the reputation he built here and getting Allegiant Stadium done.
Let me see if I can get that, because he's here. Let's see how far back he goes. Okay, let me see if it's back here a bit. If I can move that back a bit. There.
Champion, he's a World Series MVP. He is a pillar of this organization. Dave Stewart, it is great to see you. We're in Las Vegas. Can you believe it?
I can believe it, bro. It's hot here.
It's hot.
You're standing in the heat doing these interviews, man.
Yeah, you gotta hear
But you know what, though? It's like a little sweat. It's not a big deal. Welcome to Vegas, right?
Oh, man, this is going to be part of it. Good thing is we've got a nice stadium that's being built with a roof over it. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, we talked about it when you got inducted to the A's Hall of Fame. Like, you'll live forever inside this Hall of Fame. And obviously, working with the organization, you'll be here through the whole process and then opening the building in 2028. Just how important is it, as someone who has been a part of the owner process now, you've seen the game at all levels, just to finally have a stadium you can call your own?
After everything that took place, obviously, in the Bay, and the uncertainty of where this team was going to end up and how it was going to end up, to finally be at this stage, to be positioned in this way, I think it's got to be a relief, obviously, for the Fisher family and for the fans that still remain with the A's. For me personally, I've had an opportunity to get a real idea of what the stadium is going to look like, how great it's going to be for the players, and then the fan experience, I think, is going to be absolutely outstanding. And so, I look at this as the first tease, because now that the ground is being broken, you're going to want to know just about every month. I remember when I was having my first house built, and I wanted to be there, foundation, every piece of it. And so, I got to think that this is going to be just as exciting.
Yeah, we're going to have cameras up, and you're going to get to see it. Just talking to Mark Bedane, I can't stress this enough to everybody that the reputation he built here and getting Allegiant Stadium done with the Raiders, every dignitary that you talked to said once Mark Bedane was brought on, what that meant. I don't know what your relationship was with him, but the new president, it was definitely a very key hire for this project.
Yeah, I don't know Mark. I've met him on a couple of occasions, but I can't say that I personally know him. Like anything, I've done my due diligence and really looked into who he is, especially since he's going to be leading this A's organization. And, you know, everybody has said, just as you did, was like the Yankees bringing Reggie Jackson.
It's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Now, you were an agent at one point. Your wife's still an agent. Just how important will it be for players when you start looking at coming here and playing in Las Vegas?
Well, I mean, in comparison to Sacramento, Sacramento is going to be a hard place to attract players, to get free agent players to come to. You know, this first year, though I think the experience of playing in Sacramento should be like it is in any ballpark. You know, the opposition doesn't have any advantages and you don't have any advantages. You just have to hit the ball and you have to pitch and catch the ball. But, you know, this is going to be a new facility. Without a doubt, it's going to be the best baseball stadiums in baseball. And the fan experience is going to be unbelievable. I think that people in the city, let's not forget that you're in Las Vegas. I think that players are going to want to come here.
No doubt. The no state tax thing, I know it's something we really want to get into today, but the no state tax thing is going to play huge. What do you think it's going to be like when you walk into this beautiful stadium and you see your retired number up there?
You know, I don't mean this in a bad way. I'd much rather see it in Oakland. Half my number. In any place.
There it is, Andy. There it is.
Well, Dave's always speaks the truth, no matter what the circumstances are, and that's why it's much different and totally respected in so many areas. There is a hole in the soul of Oakland, and that hole was made that much larger today. You know, there was heartbreaking, not groundbreaking, in Oakland today. And I take nothing away from what Nevada, Las Vegas, Major League Baseball has done. Clearly, they've worked together to put the A's on a timetable of first pitch 2028. We'll only see. The gentleman who was talking about, we'll see cameras every day digging out. Well, when will that start? And what will be dug out? And we've seen 2,198 artist renderings of the new ballpark. I don't know this. I question it. Have every nuance, every screw, every seat, every ton of concrete been approved by everybody in terms of going and starting? I don't know that.
I do.
Yeah.
A year ago, actually a year and a half ago, they being Stadco, the Oakland Athletics, and the organization that's their construction manager, the name of which just flew out of my head, had meetings with bidders on various aspects of the ballpark project, and they had already started ordering at that point 75% of the material, 82% of the material that was needed, and ordering and paid for. Okay, it wasn't something they were ordering with the idea of paying for it later.
Right.
For. And so by the time they reached this point, they had already finished their inventory of parts needed. A lot of people don't know this, but when you're building a facility of this size, the parts are already there. They're stored, but where they're stored is interesting. They may be stored in another state, okay? Or they may be stored in an area in another county. It depends on the part. Or on sometimes it flows.
Or on a ship sailing to a coastal port. I get that.
Absolutely. So, but the good news is that to finish answering your question is that the whole talk about the tariff was actually not applicable because the materials are already bought, and not only that, they're already in place and stored.
Okay, so you've got several million Legos. They're in a box someplace. You're ready to build. Sometimes you don't build it that quickly. And again, I'm a naysayer, although I do believe the Oakland A's will be playing Major League Baseball in Las Vegas. But you still have some money that needs to be deposited in accounts someplace to pay for, as of today, a $1.75 billion stadium. And you never know, does that go down or does that go up? And only time will tell, but usually up. And Dave said, wow, it's really hot today. I think yesterday, 2 Major League Baseball players in non-dome stadiums, and this is a quasi-dome, right? This is
No, it's a dome. It's a dome, not quasi. It's
there's 0 opening in that stadium, 0.
No, it just looks like that. That's a trick. It's I think it's a great discussion point to have for a little bit, in that it's a great use of EFTE material that was first used, if I'm not mistaken, at Houston Texans Stadium, that roof up there, maybe even before that. But
at the Astrodome or something. Yeah,
I think the Astrodome was different. Those were panels, and those.
No, I know. Okay, so this is a fully domed, because they've fooled around with the convertible dome. I know that was done away with a while ago. So fully domed, tremendous light opportunities, glass, scoreboards, but you still don't know all that we're dealing with in costs and tariffs and the money that they're generating outside that John is still looking for from various parts. And again, you factor in the recent notification that John has the earthquakes up for sale at $600 million. You don't know what it's going to bring. It might bring more, might bring less. Where's that money going to? And he also owns PayPal Park. So how is that going to work out in the transaction? And I won't be the one that said, oh, there are so many unanswered questions. All the approvals have been done, correct?
Yeah, that's a non-issue. We don't have
Las
Vegas doesn't have the Oakland problem of not,
Yeah, people could say they're litigating and the teachers union and all that. It's full speed ahead, however one defines full speed ahead. And, there have been guarantees. Dave Cavill, who's no longer involved with the team, guaranteed that every single game would be completely sold out in what I believe is going to be the smallest capacity ballpark in the major leagues when it's done. He also guaranteed that every single game would be sold out at Sutter Health Park. And that has absolutely not happened. Again, today, for any Oaklander, somebody that has that whole history of 56 years, right, Zenny? 56 years in the market, and so many ups and a bunch of downs, but World Series, Halls of Famers, incredible diversity of players born in Oakland, and set records that maybe will never be broken. Can you say Ricky Henley Henderson and many, many others? We shall see what is Oakland going to do.
R.D. Moss asked a question. He says, if you were John Fisher, wouldn't you want to get out of the Bay Area too? And then Hope says the land of PayPal Park is worth a lot of money to a housing developer. But this question in particular is one I think we should ponder, because on the 25th of November, 2021, I wrote in Oakland News Now blog.com, and then I transferred that later to ZennyReport.com, that the A's should leave because the city was not working on the proper timetable. And Andy, it came from, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'll say it in shorthand rather than long. The city treated me like crap when I was trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. The NFL saw it. The NFL said it. They said they felt for me. Jennifer Gonzalez and Sue Robichek, when I had the meeting with Commissioner Tagliabue, May 10th of 2000, Jerry and Phil Tagami were 20 minutes late. Jerry, our mayor, Brown, came in at the time. First words out of his mouth to Paul, Commissioner Tagliabue, were, "Hey, what do you think of Zinni's cockamamie idea?" Okay.
And Jerry Brown does not use the word cockamamie too often, I don't think.
Right. And the night before, I will tell you, because we never talked about this before, I'll tell you in brief. The night before, Phil took me to a meeting that Jerry wanted to have with me because Jerry had gotten wind of my plan to raise $200 million based on a dual naming rights procedure where you could name the field and the stadium, okay, and for the Super Bowl. So we gain money for the popularity of the Super Bowl if we landed it. So Jerry said, "You can't have that money." And I was thinking, okay, how do I get out of this? Because my heart sank. Yeah, I know I was thinking, what are you trying to do with me? But I didn't want to get mad because I was a test.
Right.
And not to say I passed every test during that, I made a big mistake, but I'll just say this because all this is intertwined for me. But I said, look, Jerry, you can have the rest. I just need 10% of it to pay for my Super Bowl proposal. That's it because at the time we had the most expensive Super Bowl plan ever developed. It was $22 million. That was according to Jim Steig. So, but I was confident that we could raise it because you knew Michael Lynch.
Oh, yes. Michael Lynch from Visa. Michael Lynch, good man. Michael Lynch, solid business human being.
Well,
Michael
this is
Lynch,
how my
Bay Area guy. Michael Lynch, yes.
Andy, get this. This is how my life works. I go to a Super Bowl workshop. This is August 25th in New York. This is August 25th, 2000. I get on the plane to come back. Do you know who's in my row and coach?
Michael Lynch.
Yeah, other seat. I'm tying my shoe. I look over and said, "Mike, it's Zinni." And then I told him about the idea. And he goes, "It's a brilliant idea. The idea was you could buy the east side of the Coliseum for $30 million. That would be our basic nut, right?" Okay. Boom. So I later find out on the 19th of October of 2000, Coliseum Joint Powers Authority meeting, where we're presenting our Super Bowl plan and asking just for the Coliseum JPA board to sign off on their agreement with the NFL. All right. Then Ignacio de la Fuente, who was then the council president and chair of the JPA board, if you remember, had said, "Well, we met with these CEOs and they don't see how they're going to make all of this money, and they don't see how your plan looks." They didn't ask me to present it. Okay.
Yeah, and you always have to have the heartbeat and the soul of an idea, and I say this purposefully, to sell it. And when you're viewed as an empty suit in any business deal, they disappear, or somebody puts a pin in a balloon. And I always go back to the circumstance, and the ship has sailed from the port of Oakland, and you look at the opportunity that was sitting right there that you saw on 155 acres that could be turned into the equal. And I know a lot of people have told me, "Andy, just be quiet. It's Oakland. It's not China Basin. It's not Mission Bay." And I went, "You're absolutely right. It's better in terms of public transportation, where people are coming from, the Valley, the East Bay, the North Bay, and what you look at and what the A's are doing on a 9-acre site with the Tropicana and the Strip. It's this big, 150 plus acres with stadium, retail, entertainment, housing, could have already been under construction and open a long time before 2028. But
Yep.
as you and I have talked about, and also, became a bit brokenhearted about it, teamwork, leadership, and trust amongst the elected officials, and in the marketplace, you got city, county, etc., state, region, ownership of teams, and a lack of major corporate involvement in Oakland. The Cornell Myers and Gary Rogers of years gone by, the owners of the Oakland Tribune, that's gone.
Scott McKibben, remember?
Scott McKibben. That's gone, and I don't know how it comes back. I have high regard for what the Oakland Ballers are doing, in baseball at Raimondi Park and all the other sports. But here's a city, one of the 6th or 7th largest financial footprints, and I mean the Bay Area, in the country, going to the 40th in Las Vegas. We'll see how it works out. The other part, when all of the speechifying was going on this morning about how great the A's are going to be and all that, you never know how good your team is going to be, especially 3 or 4 years from now. But Las Vegas has one major factor. If you suck, you're done. Whether you're a lounge singer, whether you're a big deal, whether you're a sport. Now, people could say, well, the Raiders aren't that good. 9 games, bro. 9 games. Hockey, Stanley Cup championships, the Golden Knights. The Aces playing great basketball, WNBA. We'll see what happens in the NBA. And so 81 baseball games. That's 81 baseball games. You better be really good with a lot of stars based upon that history, where people are not going to walk from the parking lot all the way to the stadium to get hydrated.
Right. And, something else, too, about what's going on now is, don't you think it's a little disturbing? And this gets to our great new mayor, Barbara Lee, okay? That there is, unlike when we lost the Raiders, but if you think about it, starting with the loss of the Warriors and going up, can you name a time where Oakland actually on its own said, hey, you know what? We need to set a timetable for the construction of these stadiums, our own timetable, as opposed to,
reacting
right,
to what
right,
other people are
right,
doing.
right. Which is
How
what
many times has that happened?
Thank you. None. You're right. 0. Goose egg.
Yeah.
Goose egg. Yeah.
And clearly, being the mayor of any major American city is a tough job, no doubt about it. And Oakland has its challenges. But what we were always cognizant of during the Haas family ownership is that we were not just the Oakland Raiders. We were Oakland A's. We were the Northern California A's. And more power to the Giants. It was great. We had a terrific rivalry, and the Giants were leaving town, and they were going to Tampa and Denver. But if you just look at it like this, you've made a mistake.
Yep.
You need to look at it at a much larger market. And, in Vegas, if you're a football fan, you're going to a weekend in Vegas to see your team, especially if you're freezing your whatever off in December.
Yep.
Hey, but if you're going to a 3 or 4 game series in August and your baseball team is 32 games out of first place and your hometown team, the blank Athletics, whatever they're going to be called at that time, and I find it hard to believe they're not going to be called the Las Vegas Athletics, but so far, no absolute confirmation. You're not going to draw. You're not going to draw. And that's going to be a problem.
Hey, what say you about, let's take Las Vegas. I'll tell you what I loved about the groundbreaking. And I want people to understand something, and I don't think I've never really, but you know me well enough to get what I'm about to say. I came from an era where we expected government to work. and we expected government to know how. Let me give you from another perspective. It used to be when I came in as a grad student from Cal to work for the Oakland Redevelopment Agency in '87, we did loans in house. We didn't have a nonprofit doing them. We gave money to nonprofits who were doing job training. We had 120 organizations in Oakland that got money from the redevelopment agency, all that did job training. My point is this: if we wanted to do developers, we started as the developer. We partnered with somebody. We had someone in house who understood construction calculations, and so on and so on and so on. Now, with Howard Terminal, there wasn't anybody in the city of Oakland that understood how to do tax increment financing, Andy. All right. And the government is allowed to screw up because the electorate, which includes A's fans that don't pay attention to government, is part of that. They get into this personality thing where, okay, it's Shang, and so Shang gets lifted up when she shouldn't have been, and John gets put down when he shouldn't have been as much as he had been, Frank, as far as I see it. Okay, I know people see it differently, but my point is this: the city owned the Coliseum, and this county owned the Coliseum, not them. And we had an attitude about business people, particularly if they were white, frankly speaking, that was retrograde and in its way racist. So we expected them to have the money, and we do nothing. And that it didn't. It started in the late '90s, and then but it didn't really fester until the 21st century, and it built up. Okay.
Well, I'm so proud of what we were able to do, and again, because of the deep roots that the Haas family already built in America.
Right. And let's not forget, Andy, Elihu was a business guy. Elihu was a politician who was a business guy, just like Willie Brown, right? They got it. But we have people now who don't get it.
Yeah. And what we built in the community with young people, and young people, even with e-bikes today, are usually parts of families. And families are great in coming to baseball games. And I thought, again, in today's groundbreaking, they did a wonderful job of having young people at the microphone showing how committed, and we'll see, but how committed the new A's, John Fisher, Major League Baseball, and the community were to building youth sports. And we did that. We actually built baseball fields in places that nobody was going to build a baseball field, and working, with George Zimmer at Men's Warehouse, and Gary Rogers and Rick Kronk and Cornell Meyer and so many others. And
who was the oldest Spunkmeyer guy? Remember him?
Yeah. And Wayne Bebb and all of that. So that was a win in Vegas today. And that is also going to be a tremendous loss. And you don't have to go any further than Dave Stewart, who said, I'd like my number retired in Oakland.
In Oakland, right. He said it's but the other thing that I look at when I look at that groundbreaking is I'm acquainted with Bill Hornbuckle, who's the president of MGM. And he was right up there representing the business community on camera, talking about the importance of the athletics. Name one person during the entire Howard Terminal affair that represented business in Oakland that was talking about the importance of it. Can you remember? Do you remember anybody?
No, I don't. It was an unqualified disconnect at Howard Terminal with the Pacific Maritime Shipping Association. Mike Jacob, who I know and respect, is a smart guy, and he went like, "How are people getting in? How are they getting out?" And that's when Darling Dave came up with a gondola. Yeah, sure, Dave. Okay. Let's be real. And what's real now is that today they had a groundbreaking, which was real, no matter how cynical you want to be in Las Vegas, for the A's to play there, no matter how negative you might be in 3 more years in Sacramento. They're gone. and that could have been stopped, in my humble opinion, if a consortium of people like yourself and many others on the other side said, we can do something incredible here at 66th Avenue.
Yep.
And more power to anybody, that is planning, and there are many in the future. We'll see what happens.
And it reminds me, I got to share with you, because you said that if.
Yeah, let's go one more, because I don't want people to fall asleep.
Okay, no. This is I thought this was an interesting piece of lore that happened at a great place. You remember Luca's, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which unfortunately closed in Oakland, and we had a neat little event there. LUKA''S Oakland, and then let's see here, Zenny 62, yeah, and let's see, yeah, here we go. This was it. But so this was the kind of thing. It was actually, I'm not going to present the whole thing, but just to show you what we were doing, because he's not really asleep. He was just kind of listening momentarily. But we had a little event where we gave a presentation on, whoops, come on, Zenny, what's going on here? Hey, they switched the buttons on me. That's not fun.
No.
Got it right
Get
here.
your money back.
Right here. There it is. I was giving a presentation on a new design I had, which would accommodate both the Raiders and the Athletics. This was at Lucas, and we had a whole group of people, a good 25, 20, 30 people, something like that. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of efforts that people were doing around town then. It was a lot of fun. It was buzzing. Now, Miguel France says, Hopper says, how many young people care about baseball? Will attendance keep going down? Question for you, Andy.
It will keep going down if teams don't help build Little League baseball fields and quality opportunities for kids to also understand how to lose in the proper way, and not just be, oh, I'm going to college and getting an NIL deal when I'm 13 years old, where it's all money. Play for fun is basically starting to disappear in a lot of different sports around America.
Why is that?
It's just, you better be the best fourth grader in the market, or you should quit playing and go on your computer. No. And again, I'm not just saying in our day, kids played everything. And it also goes to many young people are not going to the ballpark by themselves. They're going with family and friends. And if the prices are too high, they're not going with family and friends. And you have streaming, which is taking games away from people unless you pay. So, if you look at the Vegas future, AI, the future of AI, a small stadium, heat in the summer, even though it's air conditioned and domed, a lot of games, you better be good, as we talked about, performance-based. Mm-hmm. Legalize gaming, which is always going to open up a can of wondrous worms when money is bet in sports. Can you say Pete Rose? So I am looking in all of this, give Vegas their due. I'm waiting to see what Oakland has in terms of fighting with everything they have to show that the days of teamwork, leadership, and trust are not totally gone in Oakland.
So with that question, I have a question for you on that note. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, or 0 being Oakland's not doing anything at all, and 10 being, hey, they've got this program going, they've got a plan for expansion, yada, yada, yada. Where's Oakland in your view?
Oh, I would say somewhere between 3 and 4, and that might be optimistic. I mean, I'll give Mr. Bobbitt credit and some other people that are talking, some out there, some behind the scenes. Again, you look at market, but nothing is about to happen other than the growth of some of these other sports that we talked about before. Will they supplant the Oakland Raiders, the Golden State Warriors, and the Oakland A's anytime in our life? No.
Wow. I'll give you
Sorry,
no, it's okay. I'll give you my take on that. My answer is 0. And I'll tell you why. I'm not being nasty or anything. I'm being honest. Tearfully so. We haven't had the problem today in Oakland is that everybody has their group. When I told you this off camera, I met a lot of friends I have today at Oakland sharing the vision in Oakland. That I didn't, I've been in Oakland since 74. So I have school friends and I have professional friends.
Mm-hmm.
That was before the internet. 500 people came together on 2 weekends in Oakland to develop a design of goals and objectives for the city's future. That document called Oakland Sharing the Vision actually guided the future of Oakland's direction.
No, I remember it.
Yeah, right. For 20 years after that. Andy, we haven't had anything like that since.
And people say certain areas are impossible. Like, how can you win combined 10 world championships? How can you take 329 season tickets to 16,000? How can you develop 356 consecutive sellouts at the Oakland Arena before the Warriors moved to Chase Center?
Right.
I get it. I totally get it. But one of the real challenges, and you've sat in hundreds of meetings where difficult issues are being discussed and people are willing to speak outright and not beat around the bush. And at the end of the meeting, you get, are we on the same place here? And the group goes, you know what? We are. It's going to be tough, but raise your hand if you're in. And people go, I'm in. And then as soon as they walk out in the hallway, they're out. They're going down their own path. And I think that is one of the most significant challenges that Oakland has had vis-a-vis sports and a lot of other parts of building back a magnificent city, which it should be.
And the other problem is that we don't see sports as a business, and we don't think in terms of integrations of uses. It's, hey, look, if you have a crime problem, more police. If you have everything's directional, or what my intellectual mentor C. West Churchman would call it, a disciplinary form of view of systems approach, as opposed to understanding connections. Like, let's take sports tourism. You bring more people in, there's less crime, there's more people around, there's more money, right? How do you get them there? Well, you have events and facilities. Andy, do you realize that the facilities that we were developed were built because we expected big audiences from sports organizations we don't have anymore? So those facilities.
No, how many people are employed when we drew close to 2.9 million people? And how many people are employed when nobody's coming to the park?
Yeah. And what's so ridiculous about this is we're supposed to accept the idea that cricket is going to fill the void for what that thing was built for? This is nuts. Yeah.
I take nothing away from sticky wickets and all of that. That's fine. Yeah. And there's a tremendous active South Asian population in the Bay Area, and then do well. And I watched, but I think as many people as were enthusiastic of the 7,100 that were there, 40,000 weren't there.
Thank you.
And that's the key. So we will continue this dialogue, and we will see what next chapters bring. As you and I have said, somebody should write
his own book.
Somebody should write a book about this, and in April, a new.
Hey, Andy, though, that version of your book doesn't have me in it. So
Okay, Don.
Gotta write another one.
We are. We'll
write
write
another
another one, and you'll be in it. So as always, it's always great to never beat around the bush with Zenny. New name for the show. Okay.
Well, Andy's got to be. And see here, Andy, something else too. You're on the San Jose Sports Commission, right? Board?
The San Jose Sports Authority, yes.
Okay, right. That's Sports Authority. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you realize that you're talking to the guy who's still the only person in Oakland's history to form the Sports Commission?
I do, but it's pretty hard to have a commission when you're the only commissioner, right?
Well, actually, no. You know what? No, that's a good question. I have Lee Steinberg was on it.
Okay, but how many? Where does it stand today?
Oh, the city didn't continue it.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good. I'll tell you what happened.
So why don't you go at work?
Andy, let me tell you what happened, because this is an example of why Oakland fails. All right. What happened was that and this gets to the mistake that I made. When I found out that they had this meeting with CEOs behind my back, I mentioned that Ignacio and Jerry were involved in, and they took no action on the NFL contract, right?
Right.
So press comes around to me. They're saying, what are you going to do? I said, well, to coin a phrase in Star Trek by Captain Kirk, they said no, therefore we're going. And so basically, I got home. I was really depressed, and I wrote an email to my board, and I accused Jerry Brown of being afraid to work with African Americans who are intellectually aggressive. That email that I sent out, I think it was either Tagami or Protopappas, took it, gave it to Jerry, and so I didn't know Jerry knew about it, but I should have figured that. I was just in a fit of pick.
Yeah.
And so this is what happened. I was going to give him the Palm Pilot that was made for us by GMO Hill Holiday. He said, "You're going to apologize for that email." I said, "No." And he said, I said, there's an old country saying, when you dance with when you go the biggest
dance with the one that brung you, right?
Thank you. And so, long story short, Robert Bob talked to him. We got all that out of the way. Jerry went to our Super Bowl presentation. He gave the best speech I've ever heard a politician give in my entire life to this day. And we could have won. We almost did. I came back. They said take a week off. You deserve it. I did. I came back and I found out that Jerry fired me, which took away, unbeknownst to me, $80,000 that was parked specifically for the Sports Commission.
Yeah.
That the city attorney said I couldn't do because we get 2 years to get approved. I got it in 4 months by the federal government. Okay. Yeah. So they had a job waiting for me that Jerry took away.
Well,
by the way, what he did, and then it gets better. John Russo asked me to come to his office, who's city attorney, and he goes, "Do you realize that you were released and what Jerry did was illegal? So you have a case against us." Okay.
Yeah, but right.
I didn't have enough money to get an attorney.
Yeah. Right. Your life isn't. Hey, let's litigate. Some people are in the life.
I was dumbfounded over the whole thing. And my point is that
go back to the heart, mind, and soul, the basics of Oakland and Oakland sports. And if you just think about William Felton Russell, Dr. Harry Edwards,
Bill Russell, yes,
Dave Stewart,
yes,
gentleman named Kurt Flood that made just a bit of difference in the world of the sports business. And most people are going, no, I don't remember that name. Yeah. How many players who are making tens of billions of dollars should just bow down to what Kurt has done? Marcus Simeon, Andre Ward, you keep going and going, and men and women. That heart, mind, and soul, to a certain extent, needs to be brought back in the most organized, professional, aggressive fashion so that the sports heart and soul don't go away. I rest my case.
And you done it very well. It is almost the top of the hour. Andy, we got to do it again.
Zenny, what is great, and most people aren't going to give a good cahoot about it, but every time we talk, it's in A to Z, Andy to Zenny, right? You never thought about that till this second. So we'll have another A to Z session sometime soon.
I think with me, it's always a therapy session for what I experienced in Oakland, which should be a movie. I think.
Okay, I'll send you the bill. It's not a problem.
Hey, everybody, stick around in the background. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, say hi to Mom.
I definitely will. I got you, Andy, on the way out. That ends this stream. And thank you. Hold on.
Okay.